Okay, let's see how trashed my camera is. Wow. My camera, my hair. Words are great. Words are hard. Hi, I'm Frank. I don't know if anyone is watching. I don't have statistics up, but if you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It is. I'm in Santa Cruz, California, and it's currently very, very gray. Very, very gray. Yeah. I just woke up, got my coffee, and we're here. I don't know. That's kind of it. So, what are we doing today? Well, first off, let's set this up. Oh. Boop. Okay. So the goals for the day. Goals. Nah, we can write it better than that. Woo. Goals. What are our goals for the day? Jeez, I wish I could like actually see if we have viewers and if we have chat, but we'll see. So number one, I'm just gonna type this out. We gotta get back into the swing of things. I've been focusing mostly recently on getting videos out, and that means that I need to work on actually doing stuff. I've done a little bit of sword combat stuff, but I need to actually do it. We're gonna say that this is a pun. So number 2 is going to be, I think, what did I plan? Sword drops. Okay, that'll be fun. Sword drops. And then if we're able to finish that, then we're going to have a sword drop button. 3. I'm great at this. This is fun. Okay. You can't even see that. Ooh. There we go. Now you can see it all. So those are our goals. And I'm gonna close this out. And swap back to this. So right now I need this closer to my face. I'll load in the game, but right now there is a sword. You can see we have a sword. We can swing the sword. That's it. If we click, we swing the sword. The other clicks don't do anything. So I guess let's work on sword drops. Let's be able to pick this up, drop it down. Also, I'm eating breakfast. I really apologize, but brain don't think good if I don't have food. Okay. So I did the first thing. We're actually gonna do these out of order. We go to MS Paint. We should do number 3. We should make the button to drop the sword before we even do sword drops. Yeah. Okay. What is a good button to add a sword? I'm gonna say Q. Oh, what? I don't know. What is going on? This is one of the most horrible pieces of UI I think that Unity has ever made. You can get it to work. It's just kind of gross. Okay, so we have a queue. What is a good drop? We already have an A, B, X, and Y. We have D-pad. You know what? I'll make it pressing in the right stick. If you press in the right stick on the controller, just because pressing in the left stick is going to be sprint. I think this is like the only available controller we have. We have look, we have move, we have sprint, we have crouch, jump, interact and dash, and then pause. So we have these two buttons, which I think are faux pas. Then we have these two bumpers, and we have these two triggers. The two triggers and one of the bumpers are going to be used for blocking, kicking, and for swinging. So I don't really want to use one of those for I don't want to use one of those for dropping. Okay. So now that we've added, let me chew first. Oh my god. Okay. So we've added our input action in Unity. It's here. So now what we should do is create what's going to get called by this function. I'm going to call it onDrop. We can steal this. Okay. So onDrop, we want to drop the sword. And honestly, what is validate combat? Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna actually make this a little more complex, just in that we expose this value. It would be, no, wait, why did I copy the false? Okay. So now we've got to hook it up to call this function every time we hit that key. We actually need to add the call to our local player driver too. Because this is what's actually going to get seen in the inspector. So we're going to find the event that we just added here for the function. We're going to add it to an event. So it's going to get called every time we press the drop key, which is here. So we can just now tell it, hey, call this on drop. And now we should see a debug log when we load in, and we hit the queue. We hit drop sword. Boom. Yep. Drop true and drop false. Let's go. Okay, so that's a button. So let's just drop the sword. And we already have an interact key. So we can get the whole loop as long as now we actually drop the sword, deactivate it, make an object, instantiate that into the world, make sure it's networked, and then it can just exist. Okay. Now this is the part that I don't really know how to do, which is all the networking stuff. We're not gonna need you anymore. And we're not gonna need this, I don't think. But I do want to load up our combat manager. Because we have an active weapon, I don't know if we have anything that checks to make sure that we actually have our active weapon. I think everything just kind of does it. Okay. I mean, I guess the first thing that we'd want to do is like actually make the thing that we're gonna drop. So in our player pawn, we then have our weapons. We have our D type, which stands for default type, but it's a broadsword. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. We're just gonna steal. If it would let me select, we're just gonna steal this and paste it. Reset the component. I don't know why it's like that. Is there? Oh, it's because this is rotated too. Reset. Okay. Oh, it stands for dummy sword, not even default sword. Okay. We'll just leave that as removed. Those can be removed. I want to add a box collider. Just so we don't have to do mesh collider collision detection over the network. Oh. We're not gonna need that. Okay, so now it's just a sword with the box collider. And we can add a C# script and we'll call this weapon pickup. We'll make this an interactable, and let's actually look at maybe health kit just to see what we're supposed to do. Because I know we're gonna need an interact function. Okay. I need all of those references. We're also gonna need to require, no, we don't need a spawned object. You know what, we might. We might actually later. Okay, well, we'll get our reference to our player pawn. What I want to know is this synced? The active weapon is not synced. Okay. So we're going to need to sync our active weapon. We're going to need to be able to set it to 0. And then if it's not set to 0, we want to actually show the models. So our first person and our third person weapon models are only going to be shown if we actually have a weapon, which makes sense. And all the pickup is going to really do is when you interact with it, it's going to set whatever number to your active weapon is. Only issue I can see being that we have this active weapon. And we're gonna need to actually set it to whatever we need to actually set it to. Sorry, I'm like thinking at the same time as I'm talking, which is fun. It's super fun. I'm super great at it. Okay. So the way that we, I guess, spawn a weapon, what calls this? Initialize weapon calls this. So we initialize we initialize a weapon in the index. So that's probably what we'll want to call is this initialized weapon. I'm gonna write something down so I don't forget. But basically, what I'm writing down is that in this despawn call, we should make sure to, if we have a current sword, drop that sword. Okay. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna need to do a public void pickup sword, and I don't know if it's better to use strings or integers. These are all stored. I'm gonna use strings. I'm gonna be super cringe. I'm gonna use strings. This is a network behavior. We're gonna need to be able to run this on the server so that it gets propagated to everyone. Yeah, because so right now this is an issue with the system that I've already built, which is that we have an active weapon reference, and the weapon is just a component that holds values and references to things, and we can probably make this syncable, but it might be better just to store, because we have these two lists already of weapon prefab. It might be better just to store an index, and then we don't need to store two of these. We can just reference an index in each one of these lists, and then we can sync that index because it's just an integer. Let me actually write all this shit down. I haven't made a sync far in a minute. Public sync var int active weapon index equals new, and we'll say -1 actually. So -1 is no sword. 0 is it's the same as this. Well, 0 will be I don't know why that's a 0. It should be -1. Okay. Okay. All right, now the fun part. We're gonna have to actually, we can just call initialize weapon here, or it might be better because we're already gonna have this being synced. It might be better just to no, we are gonna need a spawn call. Sorry, again, I'm doing a thinking out loud thing. Okay. So we're gonna need some sort of call, probably, I think this is called a target RPC, where we set this index from the server. Got me. I'm gonna eat. Fun. Okay. So what are we even... What is the plan? I'm trying to like make sense of all this in my head. And it's gonna take a little bit of time. And caffeine. I should stress that. It's gonna take a little bit of caffeine. Okay, so basically what happens... Oh, great. Spawn weapon on the index. We call this... Where? We call this here. Okay, so we'll initialize weapon with nothing. What does this do? Do we have to have a weapon? I think we have to have a weapon in order for this to work. Okay, you know what? Fuck it. We're not gonna use -1. We're gonna use 0. So you'll always start with the default sword. Where was the call? We want to initialize it with 0. Okay. So we're gonna want to make this a server RPC. For initialize weapon. And we're gonna want to change this to on start network. And we're gonna need a base dot on start network call, just so that we get all the other functionality. So do the base call. You know what? Actually, let's set this to -1, just so that we have proof that it gets initialized. So if it's set to -1, and then in our onStart network we set it to 0, we know it's been initialized. This way we can like edit all of our checks that are sort of constantly running to have some sort of like, hey, we've initialized a sword check. Okay. Okay. But basically today's whole day is going to be repeatedly breaking this and then turning it into something that is better. Yeah. Okay. Man. And here we're going to want to actually set our active weapon index. Okay. Now what happens? Active weapon sync type, it must be, oh, it needs to be a read only. That's fine. Thank God for Unity loading time so I can eat. Okay. We'll come back to the actual pickup object. But for now, I want to actually see if this even works. We don't still get a sword. Okay. How did we break it? Initialize hit detection. Okay. Yes. We spawn. Okay, it makes sense that this is not getting set because we don't have a sway look vector. Okay. So what is happening here? This is a very long call. So the combat manager, it tries to initialize hit detection, and this player pawn value is not set. Is it not? You know what? You know what? This is like really bad practice, but I'm gonna leave this this on start network call as a start call. And the reason why I'm doing that is just because realistically, the way that the game kind of works right now is we have a lobby phase. And this is where all of our network setup happens. I'm not as good as this. I'm not as good at this as Brett Software. And then we have to like forcefully move to the game state. But all of our network stuff has already been set up, so we don't have to worry about network objects being created or anything. We can just sort of edit them. I guess my only fear is that this sync var isn't gonna like working immediately. I don't know if it needs any setup. Like if the component needs any setup, but it's just because I don't know the internals. Realistically, because this is where all of our sword stuff is gonna happen, oh, that's particularly bad. Don't imitate, just do better. Okay. Realistically, because all of our sword stuff is happening here, and our network stuff has already been set up, we should be fine. We should be fine. I mean, that realistically, that's all it was doing already. We're just sticking a number in the middle of this whole setup process. Look at that. Okay, so now we just have no sword. Now we just have no sword. We have a lot of errors. Okay. So first thing to check, does our combat manager still have swords? Well, we don't have an active weapon, so that is likely the issue. Other issue being, this is written linearly. This does not happen linearly. I don't think. So, okay, so I have a lot of thoughts. Again, today's sort of getting back into the swing of things. I haven't like been actively working on this for a few weeks, so we need to like get the brain back into the right headspace. So start gets called, and we initialize weapon 0. I'm just gonna debug log our, what is it called? Active weapon index value. And we're gonna see what that gets set to. And hopefully it's being set to the right thing, and then we can just debug whatever the fuck it actually is. But I don't know. Okay, it's still -1. So we initialize the weapon, and then we're supposed to initialize hit detection because that has our box for how far we can hit things. And then we initialize our movement modifiers because those all come from the weapon. So I think what's happening is we're not getting the weapon. And to sort of circumvent that, I'm gonna be super cuckoo crazy and set it like this. Even though this is not getting set. The root, hold on. The root of our problem is that this is not getting set. So why is this not getting set? We don't want to say changed. We're in the process of setting this value to our index. Okay. So now let's see if it's being set right. Maybe. Okay. Oh. Ooh. Notice how that setting never got called. This never gets called. That's super fun. Okay. So maybe because this is a server RPC, it's just not getting called at all. Oh no, I have to remember how to. Okay. Okay. Let's relearn how to do server RPCs on the spot. I mean, this realistically, this is not like. No, this will be running on the server. That'll be running on the server. We just might need. We might need to change how this entire system works. Okay, regardless. So we have a function that only gets called as the server. And okay, so we call server RPCs. Server RPCs are just running code as the server. So like we would call this from any, like we have our normal post message that calls server post message, which is a server RPC, which calls something on a server. Okay. Let's see if the server is initialized. The other thing that we need to probably do is set this require ownership to false, because we're gonna need to call this from the pickup, and the pickup is only going to be interacted with on the server, So we might not have ownership. Okay. Okay. Server is initialized the entire time. So that's not necessarily the issue. Yeah, so this is in initialize, and then we have something in fix update, which is just, or update, which is trying to call this. Okay, so I'm gonna just get rid of this error. What's happening is we're not getting an active weapon data, because set weapon is being called, but not entirely. It's being called with a null active weapon, so we're not gonna have something to reference. So it's gonna get rid of one error, and this is also going to get rid of an error. If we don't have an active weapon, we'll want to return. So basically we won't do any setup stuff if we don't have a weapon, which kind of just makes sense, but also it's kind of stupid. So then we have this sync far, and something that I've done before is we'll have like an on changed message, and like this is a way of checking it, but just like on changed is when we'd wanna call all of our spawn and despawn methods. So basically all we'd have to do from whatever is going to change our weapon index is actually just change the integer, and then we can detect locally when that changes, and we can do this stuff. Which I have a few ways of doing. I can either do that through fix update, or I can do that through just adding a listener to an event. Okay, I'm gonna not make this a server RPC. Honestly, that's probably gonna fix it for now, because now we're no longer interacting with the server. We just always assume we have the default sword. I think. Maybe? This actually might be like super kind of gross, because this is one sync far, and if we were to have multiple clients, they would each call this. But for one, works great. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, so we'll want to start with weapon 0. Yeah. If we set this to -1, does it just not work? That'd be super funny. Because I want there to be a way to like maybe not be holding a sword. Like if we wanted to have a game mode where you're like just running around the map or racing or doing parkour or something. Yeah, so we can do that. And we'll need to like this is getting passed into spawn weapon because it's being passed into initialize weapon. So what we can just do is we can clear it, and then if the index does not equal -1, then we can actually spawn the next weapon. Otherwise, it'll just clear the current one. Also, whoever is the one viewer who's been sticking it out, I respect the shit out of you. Thank you. I swear this will be good at some point. Okay. Now what we have an issue with? Oh, gotcha. This is the last of those. Hey, if we don't actually have a weapon, we shouldn't do the thing yet. Things. Alright, let's just make sure that the error is gone. Which it should be. Yeah, we're good now. We can run around without a sword. Excuse me. Fucking Christ. Okay. So now we have a sword. And let me just let's get the pickup stuff done, and then we'll worry about having a default sword later. Because I have a feeling that what we can do for a default sword is just when we start the game, we're already gonna have a collection of game settings. Let me actually demonstrate this really quick. Okay, so I mean, when we go to the training ground, it circumvents the entire lobby, but it does actually exist, so we can return to the lobby. And we can look at these game settings. So maybe we'll be able to set like a default sword, and this will be just a referenced value. So then when we spawn, instead of at the pawn, instead of initializing with a -1, we can just initialize with whatever our default sword value is. And I can't like put that in yet because the setting doesn't exist. But we can then have a default sword or like a default weapon or whatever. And then that can be customizable. So that's that. Okay, so now we can spawn in with no weapon. Let's add pickup to the scene. We have our weapons table over here. Which, it's a little big. It's a little more normal sized. Okay. Okay, we're gonna give this a rigid body, and we're gonna give this a network object. A network transform, which can be client authoritative and yada. Okay. I'll just put it up here so it'll fall. I just want to check. Do these spawnable objects allow... Oh yeah, we can just turn off do respawn. So let's add in a spawned object. and just no do respawn. And then on despawn pawn, we can just hide it. Okay. So here we can close out you, and you probably. And on our weapon pickup, I'm gonna add a void which just hides it. Which will just be this dot game object dot set active false. And we don't need this. Okay, I've been kind of like a nerd when it comes to these like arrow functions because it just gets them down to one line. There's sometimes I would write like public void show pickup and then just do it all in one line. But like realistically, this is neater. What's the function? This is our function signature. This is what it does. We don't need to keep the braces around, but they're both syntactically valid. Player pawn dot. What actually? Hold on. So we have our pawn. We get a reference to our pawn. How do we do the health kit again? It's here. So when we interact, we get the health component from the player. Okay. Okay. Now get component. Let's do player driver. Player combat manager dot pick up sword. And then here's the fun part. We gotta actually set our sword pickup values. Okay, so public string. Everything's so much better when it's private and only needs to be public when it has to be. I'm just gonna set the default to D-type. So we'll pick up the sword name. An object reference is required for non-static method. Oh, because I wrote player pawn, not player. So we're gonna tell the player driver to pick up this sword. Yes. Yeah. And then we're gonna want to do this. Just gonna copy that. Copy this. Private void awake. And we can just do this again. And we can just do, copy this line again. Look at that. Super neat, tidy functions. Okay. There we go. So now we'll pick up the sword and we'll call that. Okay. Now we can do a lot of fun stuff. So A, does the pickup stay on the table? B, can we interact with the pickup? C, does the pickup get removed from the scene? I don't know. And then D, how do we set the sword on the character? There's a lot of things right now. It's a lot. It'll be fun. Even though I'm like wicked confused, it's really nice to actually be working in the editor again. Okay, so it is on the wrong layer. And with that said, we are able to interact with it. That's super funny. And what's even funnier is I can tell you that is actually staying in place. So what's happening? So look, it's still in the same place. We can move this around, and you can see on the right, it's staying in the same place. How do I turn off gizmos? That's not helpful. Okay, that makes it smaller. So you can see that our sword is staying in the same place, but it's also not staying in the same place. And why that is because we have a camera stack on our character. If you give me the however long it takes to find it. So we have our camera stack, and it consists of 4 cameras. We have our camera, so this finds everything. And let me actually make this as large as I possibly can. There, and there. So this camera sees the world. Then we have our world space UI camera, which currently sees nothing. That's going to see stuff like name tags or hit numbers when we get there. Then we have our weapon camera, which, you know, there you go. That's definitely part of the issue, is that our weapon camera is seeing us pick up. So when we move around, oh, look at that. Now it looks like it's staying in the same place. The only reason why it looks like it's moving on this side is because we have 2 different FOVs. Our weapon camera has an FOV of 60, so that way we can animate everything in a consistent fashion. And our normal camera has an FOV of 90. And this is actually settable. But that's why they're different. So how do we fix this? We just change the layer that the pickup gets drawn on. Right now it's being drawn on the weapon layer. And I'm going to draw it on the default layer. That's super funny though. I love visual bugs like that. Okay. So yeah, now it's staying stationary, and we can pick it up, and it doesn't want to do jack. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the first thing is it doesn't actually get despawned. Okay. So let's set that one up. So the pickup should get despawned. Okay. And then interact is going to call that, which will despawn it. And you might think, why aren't we just calling hide from in here? And that is just because despawn is going to get called on every instance, every connected instance of the game, whereas interact is just going to get called on the server. So we want to make sure that it actually gets hidden. Regardless, it's not exactly working. I'm not sure why. We can debug.log why it no work. Kind of works. Worked past tense. Alright, now it's just debugging time. This is what I usually cut. Even when I record things live, I cut all the debug time out. Because you never know how long it's going to take, and sometimes it's kind of cringe. Okay. So, what gets run? Oh. Okay. Everything is happening. Killed. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure that we are actually killing the object, and then if it is, I also want to make sure that I want to see if this is getting called. Picking up. Okay. Ugh. Okay. So it actually gets like the call. On the spawning manager. Yeah. So we should set its state to despawned. And then despawn spawn is supposed to get called. Super fun. Super great. Why is that not working? Okay, well, we can get rid of these debug logs because it's pretty evident that all of it's getting called and is kind of working. Let's do that. Let's make sure that we're getting a number. I'm sure we're going to. But let's make sure that we're getting a number. Also, it's important to note that it actually just calls it. So we're good there. That function is being called. We can probably get the actual swapping of the sword done. We just also need to get it to hide itself. Which, that I don't... It should work. Unless it doesn't want to deactivate itself. It should be fine though. Yeah, so we pick up sword 0 and it's supposed to kill that thing. Let's look at this. Is there still a spawned object on it? There is still a spawned object on it. If it is, let's just make sure that it's getting despawning. Yeah, let's make sure that it's actually like getting despawned. I want to figure that out. It should be really simple to either hide it or show it. Oh, well, so there's our problem. Is it's not... Its state is not spawned. Cool. Okay. Super weird. Why is that happening? Also, why is my phone yelling at me? Okay, we can put that there. Let's see. Let's see what it's, well, let's make sure that we can get data. Debug.log. Data does not equal null. So is the data valid? This is a struct, eh? Yeah. Okay, I guess we'll see what it's... Yeah, let's see what its spawn state is. Okay. We don't even get to see a spawn type. Interesting. Does it have data? I'm only going to check it this way so that we can get a constant stream of is it working or not. Yeah. Oh, we have it this way. Contains key spawned object. Okay, so if we have spawned object, do we have data for a spawned object. Oh man, I should have showered this morning. Jesus. Also, coffee tastes so good. I might make more. We have 0 drop frames. Hell yeah. Notice how we're not even getting a response for this. Okay, so do we have a spawned object? That might be it. That might be why it's not working. If we just don't have a spawned object, or it can't be found, or isn't being found, it'd be super weird if awake is not being called. But we can always just expose it and set it manually. Okay, so we have an object. We just... Okay, so part of you know, actually spitting something to the console is writing it to the console. If you just call the function and you don't write it to the console, it won't get written to the console. Yeah, sometimes the issue is between here and the keyboard. I'm so smart sometimes. How did I graduate college? Okay. Okay, so we don't have an entry for it. That's cool. Why don't we have an entry for it? One of the whole things about spawn objects is it's supposed to fixed update if if we don't have a key, then we want to create a key. Interesting. Also, I hate to do this to you. I need to go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna be right back. Alright, we're back. We're back. So right before we went to the bathroom, we found out that even though we have a spawned object on this weapon pickup, we are not getting a key. We're not like getting an entry created for it in the spawning manager. So we gotta figure out why that's happening. Entry from key. Ask just okay. So it's in this create one. Yeah, and we should get a key. We realistically should be getting a key. Yeah, I'm not super sure why it's not being created. Like there's no like sort of check here other than we have a key to prevent it from being created. Yeah, so now if we clear this, why don't we try and, yeah, so the player bond gets created, all of our health kits do, but we don't actually, is there just like some setting that I've missed with my own system? Okay, only run this if we own the object. Oh, it's not owned by anyone. Oh, okay, so we can get rid of all this. We know that that's fine, and this will work as soon as we give it an owner. Yeah, so then we just check it as server owned. Because it's not owned by a particular player, so we'll just give this to the server. I swear to God, if that makes it work, fine. Ugh. Yeah, usually, so like debugging, I'll explain this in a second if it works. God damn it. Okay. So the way that debugging works, at least for me, so we have an issue, usually, and we have the start or whatever is our in, and this goes all the way to our out. Okay. And the way that you debug is you slowly, like, you find something here, you find something here, and then you find something here, you find something here, and then you slowly work towards wherever the issue actually is. But typically, it's not even here. The issue is here, and this is me. The issue is right in the noggin. Okay. Back to oh, hey. Oh, okay. So MS Paint has a different scaling than if I just do it this way. Whatever. Okay. Back to this. So now we have it. It gets picked up, and then as soon as we do, we do actually set our sort value. Apparently, we can close this. We know that those are working. Christ, we know that is working now. So here, oh, that's a debug log. Is there a fixed update anywhere? That's animation. That's a detection. Mono behavior, fixed update. Debug.log. Current weapon. Alright, so now let's make sure that that value is actually getting set, and if it is, then we're kind of good. A lot of this is just gonna happen because we had an active weapon and then we didn't. Boom. Yeah. Okay. So we have our current weapon index that is being set properly. This is gonna absolutely kill my computer, but one thing that I want to try is I want to build it, and I want to get a server and a client going, and I want to make sure that they both spawn with no weapon, and that the client can pick it up. But this is gonna take a minute. New folder 0.0.2.5 pickups testing. And I'll just use this until like this feature is done. Also, interestingly, we're gonna have to, let me move this off to the side. So we have all of these test builds, and something that I've never seen in any like debug forums is that if you don't have this app ID text file, the game will load and it will crash. And the only reason it's crashing, and probably the reason why you don't see it in any like, hey, can someone help me out with this forum, is just because you only need this if you're making a game that has Steamworks initialized on startup. So because I have Steamworks in the game, I need to have that file there, or else it doesn't get an app ID and it just closes itself. It doesn't actually crash. It appears like it crashed, but it just closes itself. Because it doesn't know what to be when it connects to all the Steam servers. God. I can't be interesting for a minute. What am I gonna do when this thing builds? Yeah, I mean we got a drop sword button. We'll implement that at some point. Yes. Okay, so we have it here. I'm gonna just make this smaller. I'm gonna start a game on the training ground. I'm gonna bring that over. And I'm just gonna connect to it from the editor. So that way we can get some debug logs. Multiplayer, local, client. That is not how that's spelled at all. But you can see we're on training ground. So I start the game. Go here. We go here. It's kind of laggy. It errors out a little bit, but boom. You can at least pick it up. I mean, that's stuff I sort of expect to work. God, it runs better, but and the thing gets hidden, so we're good there. Yeah, so it's gonna have some issues because it just expects there to be a sword, and like I said earlier, we're just gonna break this in however many ways we possibly can. And then we're gonna fix them. It's not as jittery as it used to be, I feel like. Like, this is a lot smoother. Okay. Yeah. I still have not implemented client-side prediction fully. That's something for later. Okay. We can close you out. So we can actually interact with it on the server, and we have no way of actually telling if the sword gets set because we don't have a way of detecting when we have a sword. So what we're probably going to want to do now is we're we're going to want to keep a reference to when this changes, and then rebuild them, like do this initialization call. Now I'm gonna do this in fix update because I'm gonna be kind of cringe today. And I'm not gonna do it the way that they want, which is add a listener. I'm just gonna do it in fix update. And the way that we're gonna do this is we're gonna have an int, and we're gonna call this previous active weapon index equals -1. And here I'm just gonna add a comment. Okay. And then here we're gonna check if the active weapon has changed. So if active weapon index.value does not equal our previous active weapon index, then we're gonna know that it has changed. We're gonna want to equals active weapon index dot value, and then we're gonna want to initialize weapon with this value. And let's see if that works. It would be really sick if I can write code and it would work. Because I mean, as we thoroughly found out earlier, the issue is usually me. It's right here. Okay. Okay, so we spawn over here. If we go over here, look at that. Look at that. Okay. So now we have sword. We can swing the sword. And when we die, do we still have the sword? We do. Okay. I'm going to write that down. That's not supposed to be happening. But we have a little bit of progress. Where is this? Dying should return us to the default sword. Okay. Okay. All right. So now that's kind of working. It's kind of working. So what I'm gonna do next is I'm actually gonna, because this is like a stationary one, I'm gonna set this to actually respawn. It's gonna have to be automatic. A respawn timer, I'm gonna set it to 10 seconds. And then on spawn pawn, we're just gonna update this. So our weapon pickup show pickup, that is not how you spell value, which is a boolean. I know how to type, I swear. Okay, so now we have that, and we're gonna need to update this. God, it feels good to be like back into it. I'm actually having a really good time. Okay, weapon pickup. So we wanna not show it on. I'm gonna drag you. Weapon pickup, show pickup, true. So on spawn we want to show it, and on hide we want to hide it. Makes perfect sense to me. So we don't have a sword. We do need to go through and make it so it doesn't error the fuck out if we click without a sword. But we can do that. Now let's make sure that We can wait our good 10 seconds and see if I can guess it without looking. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I was a little late. But you can pick up again. Okay. So where are we erroring out? That's not helpful. It's probably this. Start his detection. Or active weapon equals null. Then we want to return. Ow. Okay. Why? Okay, where is it error out now? What was probably happening is we get to the next error out. So if active weapon equals null, return. Yeah. It's the morning. I've been sneezing. Also, just sort of like breaking the wall, I guess, as much of a fourth wall as streaming can have. I was gonna stream to both Twitch and YouTube, but I couldn't get the plugin working because my OBS is super out of date. And when I tried to get it working, and by working I mean updated, OBS just wouldn't update it. So at some point I need to like actually go back and set that up properly. But in the future I should be on Twitch as well. Yeah. Wow. I also mindlessly talked my way through the whole thing I was testing, which was should I click here? We should have no issues. And now we don't have any issues. Boom. Boom. Okay. This one sword swing animation is gonna get old. I'm gonna add combos later, so if you keep clicking, it has like different animations, but I have not gotten there yet. Today is just about sword drops. Okay, which is the other half of the loop. I should be able to hit Q and drop the sword. Wow. Okay. So we fixed that error. What I wanted to do was test, and I want to see if it works on a client, and I want to see if the third-person weapon model still works from a client. So, I'm gonna throw the BRB screen up. I'll be back in like 30 seconds. I just need to put a couple of dishes in the sink. Okay, I'm back. It's built. Let's open 2 of these. Multiplayer, host, and let's make sure it's set to the training ground. Multiplayer, the join guy. Okay, now let me do this strategically so that we're still able to see. So on the server, we're able to pick them up. You can see that as soon as that weapon gets set, we initialize our guy. Everything is working correctly here. Now let's swap to this. Okay. So it doesn't like to work. We should just take the rigid body off of it, but it works on the client too. Okay. I can't control P my way out of that. I have to actually just close it. So we should take the rigid body off. I ran into this issue with health kits where I really wanted them to be able to like get spawned in the air and then fall down. And that's great in theory, but the rigid body syncing just was not working properly. Which is why we just saw that sword pickup like fall through the table. So I'm just gonna remove the rigid body. Does this have a transform? Network object, it does not. So we don't need a network transform because that's really just for scale, rotation, and stuff. And now we can just put this here. Boop. There we go. And I'm gonna add another one. You know what? No. For continuity's sake, I'm gonna make it just exist over here because if the other sword gets picked up, it's gonna look weird that this one's floating. So there we go. Now we have our two pickups. I'm gonna apply all of these changes, and then we can make a copy of this, and I'm gonna call this the drop. And the reason I'm gonna call this the drop is just because we're gonna make it not respawn. So we'll have a pickup which is respawnable and it'll just exist on the wall, and we're gonna have a drop which isn't. And at some point there's probably gonna just be like a Titanfall 2 style wall of weapons that you can just infinitely interact with. But I don't feel like doing that right now. So we have our respawnable and our non-respawnable ones. And these ones are going to be fun because they're going to have to be, these ones are going to be fun because we got to instantiate them when we hit Q or drop, when we hit drop. Okay. So I guess next is public void drop weapon, and we'll do it this way. Drop sword. We don't need that. We don't have a sword name. Ooh. Okay, the way that I'm going to do this, just so that we can get all of the possibilities, is we're going to need to have this again. So we're going to have a none. It's going to be equal to -1 when the player has no sword. So then if the value gets set to -1, we're gonna drop the sword. And actually, if we have a sword already, then we're gonna drop it. Does not equal -1, then we want to drop sword. Dropping sword, and yeah, so if we have a sword, drop it, and then if we want to just straight drop the sword, we'll call this function with none as the name. So we have our player driver, and we have our drop. And this is sort of how, I mean, where is it? Here's drop. This is how we've been circumventing concept prediction a little bit. Is we will store this value and we will end up putting it into our input struct and sending it to get validated. But for now, we don't need to implement that. So if drop sword, I'm gonna just do it like that. And probably a good check to add in would be if active weapon index dot value equals -1, return. And the way that I'll justify this is if we have no sword, I know how to type, there's nothing to drop. Okay, and we'll just write dropping sword. Pick up sword. None. This is how I said we were gonna do it. So we'll call pick up sword with none. It will then call this. We'll drop a sword if we already have it, or if we already have one. And that means that we can just get this. And then if we have a sword name, or let me actually get the whole thought out. With our sword name, we can then get the new active weapon, which could be none. And if it is none, then we drop it. Well, we'd already dropped it. I know what I'm doing, I swear. Okay. And I want to get rid of all those debug logs for like dropping the sword, not dropping the sword. I don't know where. Oh, we're probably fine. We have our drop. Or we got rid of our debug log for drop. So now the behavior that we should be seeing is if we don't have a sword, and I hit Q, we should see nothing. But if I do pick up a sword, and I hit Q, we instantly set it to 0. And it should allow me to pick up another sword. How long is our interact range? I should have just been in the map to test this. Because it feels like we should be able to interact with these from a little further away. Or like it takes a little too long to find them. That's also weird. I don't understand. There's got to be something with it. 'Cause like those also take a second. What? I'm kind of confused. Okay, hold on. What is up with our interaction system? So that's only interactable there. Player interactor. Find everything. Is it just having an issue? I don't know. That's something that if it persists and it keeps happening, I'll look into. But okay. For now, we can pick up sword and we can drop it. Okay, one thing I do want to check is in our player pawn. When we look at these abilities, yeah, we have base walk modifiers and that. Okay, cool. Okay. Okay, this is kind of gross, but effectively what I just changed, and I'll explain the thought process, is when you drop the sword, before it would just not update our weapon movement modifiers. And so you would still, even if you weren't holding a sword that made you slow down, be slower. And so all I've done now is check, hey, if our weapon is null, instead of just returning from this, we're going to reset all of our stuff. So we're not going to be limited by our weapon for if we can sprint or if we can dash. And we're going to, and we're going to reset all of our multipliers to the basics. Okay. Just an email. Okay. So that's just something that I don't want to have to deal with in the future. And it's fixed now. Okay. Alright, we're gonna build this again. And I want to make sure that we can drop stuff on clients. So I guess like the most frustrating part about developing a network game is that you do have to build it so often. And I've seen people use, there's a Unity extension called Parallel Sync, which duplicates the editor instance into a clone of the project. And then you can run two side by side. You can have both have inspectors. But regardless, it still takes like 3 minutes on a good computer to clone a decent sized project and move them over. So, you know, it's a little painful when you have to like rebuild something to test something that is maybe like a super simple change, like just checking if a debug log runs, or in this case, if we can pick things up. It's kind of annoying that I gotta wait like 3 minutes, but ultimately, what are you gonna do? It's better to know than to not know. Okay. So let's load up 2 of these. Okay, and then now if we start the game. Okay, so this guy is the client, and we can pick up a sword. That all works. Only issue being that it's not hidden on the client. Oh. It's a good thing to check. Okay, there's something really weird happening with the interaction system, and I'm not 100% sure why. It might just be lagging. It might just be that a raycast is trying to find too many objects. Okay, yeah, that worked fine when it didn't intersect with the ground. I don't know. Might need to implement a layer mask. Okay. Okay, so it's just that that one, I think, is not wanting to despawn. And let's see if I can do that. Oh, they're despawned on here. Okay, is there anything different between the two? Other than indexes? Do respawn, server own. No, those are fine. And with these ones, everything was fine. Okay. It's probably just an interaction system issue then. Let me write down to debug test this shit out of the interaction system. Did not get hidden on clients. Okay. So I'm just writing down interaction system is clunky. Prompt takes too long to show up or go away, and sometimes items don't get hidden on the clients. Okay. Unload. Okay. But we can pick stuff up. Are we able to drop stuff? Did I even check that? Let's check that. And I'm also gonna close that. Are we able to drop swords? So we can pick one up and we can drop it. Oh, look at that. We still have a third person model though. So now we can pick one up and we can drop it. What does it look like if we go and grab one here? We have it now. Okay, so dropping does not work. Dropping doesn't work. Why? That's interesting. So the third person model doesn't go away. It's another thing to write down. Okay. So when we despawn the weapon. Oh. We're so so when we spawn a weapon, we create a first person weapon and we create a third person weapon. And we only destroy the first person one. And here we want to destroy the third person one. Hopefully that works. Hopefully that works. It's gonna be really hard to tell in the editor because it just gets hidden for our own character. But it should work fine. I'm debating if I want to just build it again immediately. This is sort of what I'm saying where it's kind of annoying that I literally add one line to try and fix something. You know, it's like, okay, let's see if it works. We gotta wait 3 minutes, and with my brain, I'm probably gonna forget what I need to test in those 3 minutes unless I like write it down. So, super fun. Super fun. At least we're making progress. We have our drop button. The first person stuff works. We have sword pickups now, which is something that I didn't think I was gonna get done today. But we can equip and we can drop a sword. We are working on sword drops. We have sword pickups. So some of this stuff is like actually kind of working. We might want to like hide or show the UI, the combat UI, depending on if we have a sword. Ooh. One thing that's super fun is like at certain points of the Unity build, things like they'll lag out. So like I see OBS lagging, it still says 0 drop frames, but it might have not really like that. So sorry. Okay. Now let's see if dropping the sword works. That works. Okay. Start the game. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna have to look at the interaction system at some point. Let me go over here. Okay, we can drop the sword now. And on here, we can drop the sword. It disappears. Okay, cool. Cool. So now we can drop it. The only thing that we have to do now in terms of our full loop is actually just spawn in at runtime one of those sword drop objects. Okay, so we have our D type. It's probably gonna want to be stored on our first person prefab, or no, in our weapon data, maybe. Yes, weapon data. Header pickup. Yeah, and we'll just, or I guess we'll call this the sword drop. Yeah. Public game object drop prefab equals null. Okay. So in our combat manager, we can just worry about actually dropping the sword. So here, drop sword. If we have a drop prefab, and this is going to happen before we lose our active weapon index. So if our active weapon dot data dot drop prefab does not equal null, or I guess if it equals null, return. So if we have a drop prefab, then we want to instantiate and spawn the drop prefab. Yes. Okay. And the way that we're gonna do this is sort of like we have here. We're going to create a game object. We're gonna call this the dropped sword equals instantiate. And we're going to instantiate this without a parent. So we have we don't want a parent, but we don't what is this? This is a bool. True, yes. How do I want to instantiate it in world space. So new vector 3. This is its position. Okay. Where do I want it to be spawned? What do we have a reference to from here that I can use to build it? We have a player pawn. Player pawn dot what is it called? Lowercase player pawn. Player pawn dot transform dot position. No, that's the parent. We'll just set the position. Dropped sword dot transform dot position equals that. And where when I look at our player pawn, player prefab. So we have our pawn, and its local and pivot position is there. So that plus new vector 3 0.0f 0.125f 0.0f. Set the position and spawn it. We don't want to give it an owner. It'll figure out its own owner. Wow. Cloud just covered the sun. It got way darker in here. Kind of like it though. Okay, so now we just gotta go in and set the prefab. Okay. Combat weapons D-type. Where is our? Oh, it's weapon data. Okay. So here we want to take our drop, and our drop is going to be server owned. Server owned doesn't respawn. Let's see if one spawns in when we actually do it. God, it's a nice day. Part of the reason I don't know who's watching this. I don't know if you're actually paying attention, but part of the reason I'm streaming from like 9 to 1. Oh shit. Okay. That's a little bug. So every time we pick one of these up, we can make a line of swords. We can make a line. That's funny. This is gonna lag everything out, I think. The other thing is we should make it so that we don't collide with them. What the fuck? Okay. Wow. So that's not working. Okay. You know what? Slight detour. We're gonna go here. Oh, that's red. Whoop. So detour 1. I'm just gonna type this out. So we want to add an interactable layer. Interactable layer mask. To speed up interaction. Two. We want to turn off collision. Yeah, between the player and sword drops. So that way we don't get whatever just happened. And then 3, find why this sword is dropped multiple times. Yeah. Okay. So let's look at our player interactor. And let's look at our old interaction system. We can close out these. We're done with those. We're even done with that. I think we can be done with these, and we just need to check that. Okay. So we have a interactable layer mask. We're gonna make this a private, and we have an interact mask, and the way that it works is we just throw this here. And I believe that we can set this to just be the interactable layer. God, what is with my allergies this morning? So we can go to our player prefab, and then here we can find our interactor. And we can set this to just be interactables. Now, if we go here and we search for the interactable component, everything here is interactable. And we can set its layer to interactable. So now let's make sure that everything visually looks the same. And now whenever we do this raycast, it only is going to check for objects on that layer, which should speed it up if the issue is that it is slow. And that is what it was looking like it was. Now we just need to make it so that we don't collide with it. Okay, so the sword drop is not on that layer. And I can prove that to you in a second. It's on the default. Let's put this on interactable. And also, I want to see something I did. Sorting layers, tags. Something I did previously, and I don't know if it'll just automatically work now, is project settings, physics. I think I set it so that the player does not collide with interactables. Yeah, so this little checkbox is on. So that way, if we run into an interactable object, we don't collide with it. That way, we don't get the behavior where I was creating a bunch of swords and it was pushing me to the side. Because not only is it not going to like that locally, the server trying to authenticate that movement is really not going to like that. So if we pick up a sword, you can see it exists. Boom, 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 boom. And we have to pick up all of them. That's super funny. Okay. So another news, now we can just create a line of these as we go along. And they don't have a despawn time. So we can like really, I mean, it's a good way to test how many objects Fishnet can handle. But no, we don't collide with these anymore. Cool. Okay, I want to set the rotation of them. It needs to happen. Castle Wars, modules, not modules, gameplay. Combat, weapons, D-type. So on our drop, I wanna bring one of these in, and it's gonna be one of these. It's a Z. I'm gonna set this to 90. All right, and all I want to do is override that. Boom. Okay. So now they should spawn flat on the ground. Hardest part is going to be getting this to work so that you only drop one sword every single time you pick one up. Okay. Well, it didn't like that. I still think that this is really funny. I mean, it's a good way of tracing, like, movement. Look at that. Yeah, if you wanna like retrace your steps, just do this. Oh, okay. Ooh. Until you get off of a straight path, it works. Okay. It's so funny. It's stupid, but it's really funny to me. Okay. In other news, so in terms of this detour, we can, I think, check this off. So one is done, and we turned off collision between those two. So we just need to figure out why the sword is being dropped multiple times. Then we can get back to our original. I think we're back in the swing of things. I sort of understand how this stuff is working. The pun is funny. The sword drop button is working. So it's really just figure out why multiple swords are dropping, make sure everything works on both the client and the player, and then sword drops are done. I can just play Destiny 2 for the rest of the stream. Ugh. Oh yeah. Okay, this actually reminds me. There was a thought I was trying to get out when the sun changed. So part of the reason I'm streaming earlier in the day, so I'm really only going to be streaming from like 9 until 1 whenever I do stream, is because all of my friends get up at like noon, so I can then hang out with them in the morning. And if it's a nice day, I don't like completely lose the day sitting inside. Yeah. Also about the stream, I usually come into I say usually, my plan is to come into the stream with a few things that I want to work on, a few things that we can work on, and then if I get all of that done, I can play games. So today was literally just, we're going to get sword drops working, and that sword drop button working, and pretty much get the whole loop of like, you start out with no sword or a sword. That might be something we want to work on. Then, you can pick up a sword, and that would drop any sword that you already have. Or you can hit the drop sword key, and that will just drop the sword that you currently have. That's something we can try. It should only drop once. Oh, I don't have a sword to drop. Boom. Yeah, okay. If we figure out why it's dropping multiple times, that's it. That's it. Oh. Okay, we have some issues. Sword drops is not working. You can't actually drop the sword. So then this is what we're gonna work on. But yeah, the general formula is that I will come into this with a few ideas of what to work on. Some days, like if it's like a Destiny 2 expansion day, I'm not working on the game at all. But I'll come in with a few ideas. If those ideas get done, I'll either find more ideas or play a game. Yeah, that should be fun. What do we want to look at? I want to figure out why the drop, when we call pickup sword, we should drop the sword. So let's see if that's getting called. Okay. So we don't have anything to drop, so we do that. So that dropped it once. That didn't call drop at all. Okay. Cool. Fun. Super great. Why? Huh? So was it this? Why aren't we dropping the sword? Because we know that the pickup sword thing should be getting called. Our player driver is calling pickup sword with none. So that's good. What is possible is that we should drop the sword. Like we might be calling drop sword before or technically after this value is being set. I don't know. We'll find out. Okay, so that one makes sense. Ooh, hey, look at that. Yeah. So what's happening is the active weapon index is -1 for some reason when we call drop sword, or when we call pickup sword. What? Huh? That's weird. Why are they doing that? We could make this kind of super jank, and we can create a boolean here and be like, hey, haven't dropped it yet, and then drop it. The other thing that we can do is save a reference to the game object. Well, hold on. I think this is already being handled by our player driver. Yeah, okay, it is. It's not going to change anything to do that. Interesting. That's super interesting. I mean, what might be happening is that the first time around. Okay, I'm gonna make a flag. Bool drop weapon flag, or has dropped weapon. We'll call it that. Equals false. Has dropped weapon, and then when we initialize a weapon, or I guess when we spawn one in, we'll want to save that we can drop it. Equals false. Save that we can drop the weapon. So that we'll do this, and then when we drop the sword, we can just has dropped weapon equals true. So that way it should only get called once. If we have not dropped the weapon, we will drop the weapon. When we do drop the weapon, we'll remember that we have, which means that this won't get called. And every time that we pick up a new weapon, we'll remember that we can drop it. So let's see if that gets it to only drop once. Then we have to figure out why it's not dropping when we just hit the key. Okay, drop sword once. That was a pickup, but it didn't drop the sword. Oh, that builds in super cool fun time, which aren't words, but what it does mean is that if we have a sword, we can't, and we pick up the same sword, that automatically builds in that it won't drop the current one. We'll just get rid of the drop. Now these will respawn in like 2 seconds. Only when we do that. Now it is dropping the sword that it just picked up, which is a problem. That is a problem. What? Realistically, this is only going to get called here So we don't need to turn it into another server RPC. We just need to do this stuff here. Because even drop sword just calls pickup sword with this. So if it's not -1 and we haven't dropped a weapon, then here we go. This isn't gonna get called anyways if there's nothing to drop. So I guess remember we dropped the weapon. We can okay. What am I typing? I hit something. Remember we dropped the weapon. And then we make sure that we have a drop prefab. And because we haven't initialized a new sword yet, we're good. I think what was happening was because we were doing 2 server RPCs, when we would call the second one, it would take too much time and this would elapse and we would initialize the new weapon and then drop the current weapon because we had just taken too long. Whereas now this is all going to happen linearly. So this will all happen before we set the new sword index. Or the new active weapon index. Which should just fix it. It's almost always better to do things in one step rather than 2. Just because then the number of things that can go wrong is different. Okay. So now we can drop a sword. Oh, it's still dropping the one that we picked up. Why? What? Why are we dropping it? If it's not -1, we draw the weapon. This isn't gonna matter. Because once we change this, the flag is gonna be set. So we can get rid of this. It's not exactly doing anything anymore. Where is it? I don't know. Yeah, I'll get rid of it. Fuck it. Okay. Because the value is never used anywhere. Now we're gonna see the exact same behavior. For some reason, when we pick up a sword, we drop that sword. I don't know why. I don't know why. How many times is pickup sword being called? Because I just want to make sure that I'm assuming it's being called multiple times. And so the first time, since this is -1, we skip it and we just set this and it's getting called again. And then it's dropping it off. And we're getting the new one. So what I'm assuming is happening is we're calling it twice. At least. Three times. So what's happening? Let's find a new space. Is we sort of have this loop. So we start with nothing. No. Nothing. We start with nothing. Then we pick up 1. So we drop nothing. And we grab the sword, the first sword. And then we have a second and a third call. And so what's happening is we are dropping 1, grabbing 2. And then here we are dropping 2 and grabbing 3. And so at the end, it looks like we go from nothing to something. But at the same time, we have created 2 drops. And we don't want to create these 2 drops. We realistically just want to go from nothing to something. So how do we make sure that this is only getting called once? That I don't know. I think what we could do is go in, like, how do we make sure that the health kit is only happening once? It is calling on despawn here, which I did. No, this doesn't do shit. What? On despawn isn't doing anything. It only runs on the server. Is this something that I didn't build? Interactable. Yeah, it's not built into this. That's what's happening. It's happening on everything. Okay. It's happening on all of the instances, which means that it has time. It can happen multiple times before the server catches up. If we set it so that it only runs on the server, it will only happen once. So let's get our weapon pickup. Only run if this is the instance on the server. Okay. Okay, pickup sword got called twice. That's not great. Okay, so somehow that made it so that we can drop the sword we are currently using. So when we pick it up, we're still dropping the same one. But if I go all the way over here and I drop the sword, it exists there. That's funny. But it's still a duplication glitch, because every time we do this, we can technically make a new one. Every time we pick it up, it'll still drop itself. We can pick it up, we get a new one here, and we're good. So we can actually drop them, but we still have the issue where we are grabbing itself. We are also, if active weapon does not equal null, and, okay. So we want to figure out why this is being called twice. So that's one thing that we do want to do. I said the same thing twice. It's okay. It's okay. Oh yeah, every time I hit that button, it gets called twice. Okay, so now let's clear this. If I just hit E, it gets called 3 times. What the fuck? Okay. Hi. So this weapon pickup should only run if this is on the server. We use properties from the spawn object to determine if the function is going to run if we're on the server simulation. Okay. Yes, hi. So we do the same thing. Only run if this is the instance on the server. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Why that's running multiple times. Because, like, I just closed the health kit. But what's happening here is, so we get our health and we call this change health function. But change health is set up the same way. It's a public void that is a non-ownership required RPC. Similar to how here we have non-ownership required public void. Why are we dropping this? Like, why are we dropping it? I mean, we know that. Now do we want to do the the flag? Would that even work? You know what? It might. It might. Has dropped weapon. I love that we already tried this. Has dropped weapon. So. Has dropped weapon. The first thing that we want to do is remember we dropped the weapon. I did the same thing twice with the little braces. Equals true. Okay. So if we haven't dropped it, drop it. Okay. And then when we, after we've set this up, has dropped weapon equals false. Equals false. And I want to start it at true. I want to start it at true. We'll see if that works. I might end up changing it to start it at false. My reasoning is that what's happening is we're picking up the weapon. No, it's still not gonna work. Now okay. That breaks the. We're just gonna get rid of this again. We're just getting rid of it again. It didn't help last time. It's not helping this time. Oh, okay. Why is this being called multiple times? I mean, it has two references. It's being called here. And it's being called here. This is probably super interesting debugging time. Pick absorb. Okay. So it's still just that. Let me clear this again. When we pick up, it's being called 3 times. So we still have this set of we get extra drops when we go from nothing to something. Yeah, because you can even see, like, this is exactly what I was saying. We're dropping the sword twice. So we start with nothing, we drop nothing, we grab the first one, then we drop the first one, grab the second one, and then we drop the second one, and we grab the third one. And we can even prove that this is what's happening, because I bet this is the one that we just dropped. If we deactivate this, oh wait, hold on. It really is dropping it twice, and we're not even picking up the same one. What is going on? Really, what is going on? Okay, I think the other thing that it could be is that we need to hide it. We just need to hide it. So Hide the object. We need to hide it on the server so that way it interacts with it once, and as soon as this function is called, it's hidden. Show pickup. False. That might make it better. Maybe. Just maybe. I'm gonna write down a little note. So something I noticed is that we are still keeping around all of the old deactivated pickup objects, and that's okay. It's just it's another thing that we should probably clear out so that it doesn't lag. Okay, that worked. When we drop it, so that's fine. If we pick it up there, at what point did we duplicate them? I drop this one over here, pick up this one, drop it over here, pick up this one, and drop it over here. Okay, so that works. If I took a bunch of fall damage, what is different between a health kit and... Oh, hold on. Get this regen shit out of here. Off. If I took a bunch of damage, and then I like ate a health kit, what is causing that to only run once? I don't think it's necessarily just... Oh. It runs twice too. Super interesting. Super weird. That's crazy. What the fuck? Huh. Okay. How are we... Spawn object, health kit, on spawn, on despawn. Yeah, so... Oh, all it's doing is moving itself. Dot. That active false. Does that just completely break it? It might. It might. I don't actually remember how I built it. I guess it moves itself on the server to some position. It doesn't need to do that though. Yeah, it's just being hidden or not, depending on, like, all of its colliders and stuff are being activated and deactivated. Okay, so because I don't actually like reset it, I think what's gonna happen is these are all gonna get deactivated, and then they're never gonna get activated again. Yeah. What happens to these ones? Because these ones, they get deactivated. We grab them. We can drop them. Pick them back up. Okay, so that works. We are actually able to just spawn and despawn them. True. Okay. So these, yeah. We'll just do this. We can just do that. And that should actually fix the interaction system. And that should be sword drops all in its entirety. I guess, yeah, we can pick up a sword. We can drop the sword. Even though pickup runs once. We're good. Now the hardest part, we're going to be testing and seeing if this works client side. It is worth noting, we have these extra drops that get deactivated. Like that one exists and then it's deactivated. And I think that it would be good to do some sort of garbage collection system. Basically just, these are spawn objects. And what we should maybe do is when kill gets called on them, remove them. That could be a good garbage collection system. Let me write this down. Spawned objects that get killed with no with do respawn unchecked should get fishnet despawned. Cool. Okay, I have it written down to fix the oxygen tick. So let's build this. Let's do our own testing. And let's see if the oxygen tick is still broken. And while this is building, I'm gonna go pee. Alright, I'm back. We have it built. So now let's test the clients, or let's test everything on the server and on the client. Make sure that it's working. And then let's test if the oxygen tick is broken, and we can call those working. Okay, so ignore the key error. I would open up the log and show you what it is, but it's gonna show you my fucking IP, and that's not very great. So, okay. On the server, we can pick up, and we can drop. There's an object reference, or a no reference issue. On the client, we can pick up, we can drop. We can pick up, we can drop. We can pick up, we can drop. You know what? Okay, hold on. Full cam. You get to see my face. Hi. I want to look at this log. Oh, I accidentally also quit the game. Because okay, so you can kind of see this open log file button. I clicked at the top, so it also clicked the lowest button here, which is this return to game or return to lobby end game button. Okay, so we have a null reference exception. Find next. That is find up. Okay, so it's an initialized weapon. It's just an initialized weapon. Okay, cool. So that's interesting. Let me end that. We can return to the lobby, and then we can make a guy called join to. Join again. Start back up. Oh, hey, shit, that's an error. What the fuck? Okay, none of that's supposed to be happening. There's a lot of bugs that get introduced when you try and connect multiple local games together. And the good thing is, I'm never gonna ship it with those, so we don't have to worry about bugs like that, but they're funny. Okay. Okay. So let's look at the oxygen tick, because it should work fine. No, very much not working fine. The oxygen ticks immediately and kills you. Okay. That might be an extreme activity. But we have sword drops working. Like, look at this, look at this. Woo, 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 woo. Every once in a while, it does actually drop the one that we picked up. Or it always does. What the? Okay. Okay, so if we have a sword and we try and pick up another one. Okay, this is expected, actually. Because what's happening is it's dropping the current one and picking up one of the same. Because if we were to just drop it, we have nothing, and then we can pick it up, and it doesn't like introduce another one. It's just if we have one that's already there and we have that same sword, it just replaces itself, and for some reason isn't necessarily dropping, isn't picking up the old one. So we can still do it. Okay, we do have an issue. Does that happen in the editor? Okay. So we need to create another one. So that's working fine. Is it a speed issue? Is it just that it's faster here? That'd be kind of go crazy, maybe. Oh, hold on. We already have a game going here. Okay. That's doing the same that we kind of expected to. Yeah. So that's just moving the sword drop along. But it's not creating a line. I wonder why that one got its line created. Regardless, I think that's a bug that's just gonna need to get patched at some point. I think we're kind of good for now. So yeah, that's sword drops. Is there anything that I sort of missed? We have a sword, drop it. Dying. Dying should return us to the default sword. But that's actually not too hard. All we have to do there is when we get killed, which I now have to find where we get killed, we should just call what we do when we drop the weapon, and it'll drop the weapon where we died, which if it's in a kill plane is kind of a fucking rip. Okay, so player health, this is where we get killed. So let's do get component player driver or dot player combat manager dot pick up sword none. Drop the sword, and that'll only get called once if I recall correctly. God, it's a nice day out. Yeah, I'm only gonna stream until like 1, and then we're gonna get to I might get to go outside. Let's go. Okay, let's see if this works. It would actually be kind of cool. Okay, we can pick up a sword. We can swing the sword. And we can die, which drops the sword. And now we don't have a sword. And there's a sword in the kill plane, which, if we're careful, we can pick up. Oh, it tried to save. Okay, yeah, that's a little annoying. So, what is causing that? There's easily some amount of times when it's not dropping. Oh, hey. Okay, so this works. The oxygen tick works fine when we're playing alone. And I'm just gonna let it try and kill the player, and we're gonna see if it does. No, it won't. It'll give us a little bit of a seizure moment. It's so funny. This is probably lagging out the. Because if we do it one at a time, we realistically will. It's just funny that we can make lines of these things. So I think it all comes down to timing and like how efficient things are, which means that there's some underlying issue, but it's interesting that we had an error here. It's actually particularly interesting that we had an error here, considering that I would have to. Oh. JK. What was happening there was this error, or this is the only thing referenced on this line, and it wasn't being able to find it. I was like, we already checked it, but it was if this is null and this is null return. We want to check if it has an active weapon and it has a drop prefab, which means that if you demorgans it, it has to be false or false return rather than true and true return. So computer science stuff. You don't actually need to know that it's called De Morgan's. You just need to understand how it works. If you want this one to be true and this one to be true to continue, you need it to be false or false, and you don't continue. Okay. Well, I'm gonna get rid of these. No, I'm not gonna get rid of the debug logs just yet. I'm gonna get rid of that one because it's a little annoying. Because we can call drop. That's always going to drop it. Something else I want to try, and this is gonna require some Bluetooth settings. Wow, hi. I don't necessarily know if it's gonna show anything gross, but let's see if I'm gonna have to watch just me trying to connect a controller. It's dusty. I haven't used it in like a week. Connect. Okay. Boom. Boom. Yes. Okay. So now if we can play the game, we can pick up, we can swing, and we can drop. Sweet. Boom. Alright, what should I do now? Because we have, I mean, other than figuring out that, which now this is only a sometimes problem, we finished sword drops, it actually drops, and we figured out the button. Now we just need to sort of figure out why that's happening sometimes. But realistically, it should be okay. Like, it should be fine. Maybe? I don't know. I think I'm gonna chalk this up as a bug report. We can just write down sometimes picking up a sword drops it at the same time, duplicating it, duplication glitch, and allows for trails of pickups, which is kind of funny. It's gonna be a good old fun little bug fixing day time whenever I actually get around to that. Okay. What's next? We have sword combat. We can theoretically swap weapons now. We just need to actually add the weapons. Yeah. Why did I say it was tomorrow? So today was sword drops and the sword drop button. Super easy, super sick. And tomorrow is, ooh, okay, adding in a couple of the old swords. Ooh, hold on. This is just, I forgot I need to open it. Cancel. Okay, there we go. Actually, you know what? I'll leave it here in case anyone wants to watch it. I try and leave this open as much as I can. This run's only been for 13 days, or this ascension has only been for 13 days. But I've been playing it for like 3 years, and it's It pains me when it's not open because you get so many more cookies when it's open, and it doesn't take resources. So I just leave it minimized. Okay. So then, what's next? We have a good chunk of things that are like in the game now. Oh, and this counts as game dev. I actually am doing game dev, Mom. I'm doing it. Okay. So we have a few things. Here, let me actually bring over the troll board. So this is the current sprint. So we have sword combat stuff. That's pretty much like the brunt of it is getting sword combat working. And I kind of want to bring back the G type and the K type. So a glaive and a katana and a broadsword are going to be the three that we have. Maybe a sword and shield combo. There was you know what? I might just bring back all five because what really held me back was the animations, and now I have the animations, and it's going to take like a day to add them all in. It's honestly not too bad. And that allows us to do sword swapping weapons. Once we have that, then it's just, all the fun stuff. Friendly fire, hit numbers, applying the damage. This is just sword stuff. Lunging, camera shake, surface hits, so applying decals to stuff might be a fun one to do. Then we have to do sword combos, shield blocking, kicking. I kind of want to do a third-person ragdoll for when you're kicked. Hit numbers is a thing. Maybe lunging to targets. I think these are going to be things that are just sort of, or lunging is going to be optional depending on the sword and specifically the attack. And then once we're done with that, it's game mode time. This is going to be a really fun one, but it's going to be a lot of stuff. Ultimately, like I've talked about this a little bit in the past, the goal is to make this a custom games game. So I'm going to make a bunch of game modes that are sort of like base game modes. So that way when, theoretically, you make a lobby, and then you can edit these game settings. So we have our general settings, we have our player settings, we have our health settings. And that's all we have for now. What I want to add in, that's not it, is we have our game mode settings. I want to add in, these movement settings are already here, and health settings as well. Those are already here. So I guess we can do those. But we need our game mode specific settings. Mode specific settings. And we need our map specific settings. Those are going to be what I probably add in next. Because those are the only things that are going to be really conditional. I'm gonna write down conditional. But this is gonna be the second half of the sprint. So this is probably it's probably gonna be a month's worth of work. The good news is that once this is done, that's the minimum viable product. I can delete Unreal Engine off of my computer. I can nuke the old Nerd Herd folder, which contains all of the old code that I've been basing a lot of stuff off of. And then I can update the design document, build out the sprints, and get to other fun shit, but really focus on bringing people in and going from there. Adding in that's when we get to add in content. So swords, weapons, loadouts, character customization stuff, game modes, and playtesting. So it's a lot of content stuff, which will be really fun. But it's gonna be a bit until we get there, I should say. Yeah, I guess what can I work on next? The HUD element could work. Hit numbers could work. Weapon sway is like mostly done. Combat UI could work. Sword combos maybe. We can work on adding in the swords maybe. E-type and the S. Maybe. It also might be nice to kind of just chill for the rest of the. Oh well, we tried on that. It also might be nice to kind of just chill for the rest of the stream, or maybe end it early. Maybe. Oh, I have 2 people watching right now. Hi. Playing Cookie Clicker on the side. I do this often. I swear. Not clicking this one though. Yeah. So, for the guy who just joined the stream, or the person or whatever you go by, I just spent the last 3 hours. I can't show you on that map, and I made it so that the player doesn't start with a sword, but as soon as we find a pickup, we can pick up the sword, we can swing it, and realistically, we're supposed to be able to drop the sword. But that's not happening right now, apparently. It was working a second ago. That's fun. What? What happened? Is there... Like, we're hitting the drop sword button, but the sword drop isn't happening. Already spawned, not predicted. What? What is happening? Okay, if I restart this, does that make it work? I don't know. I didn't change anything, so I really hope it's still working. Oh. What the There's words you can say. There's definitely words you can say. If I die, does it still drop it? Oh. No. Whoa. What? Huh. If the last thing I did was change that, unless it was that. Let's move that as its own condition, and that as its own condition, and we're gonna let it recompile. I hope that makes it work, or at least. Okay, now I'm super confused. Oh, okay. I just wasn't tabbed in. yeah, I didn't change anything, so I don't really know what could be happening. Other than the fact that I changed the condition, it might not be wanting to work. Because we can pick up the sword. Okay, we have an active weapon. It's just when we hit the sword. Did our weapon data change? It would be super crazy if that changed. I don't think it did though. Play pawn. Combat. Weapons. D-type. The drop still exists, and our weapon data has the drop. Okay. If I revert this to that, does it now work? It would be super dumb, kind of funny, but super dumb if that condition is what is stopped it working. Because we know that it's at least getting called, so it's something in between here and here that isn't working. You know what it might be? If one of these causes it to return, it skips this. Yeah. That's what's happening. Okay. Does that equal null? Okay, so there's a bunch of issues. The first issue is that if this condition is met, we would return and then not set a weapon index, so it wouldn't change. The second issue was that we were checking if this if this is not null, if this is null, or this is null, we should return. We're checking if this wasn't and returning. So somehow I messed it up, and that was happening. What we do want though is to demortgage this. So if this is not null and this is not null, then we're gonna want to continue and run this code block. Otherwise just skip this section and change that. I bet you that's gonna work. I really do. But I wanted to bring you up, not you. I just wanted to see OBS. I'm so happy with my internet today. 0 drop frames. Okay. If this all works, which it does. Okay. So, what did we learn today? The issue is never the program. The issue is me. Yeah, I can't get it to do the thing. And when we die, it'll drop. And, yeah, cool. Okay, before anything changes, I'm going to bring this over here, and I'm going to push this all to get. Okay. That's been committed. We're good. Everything is up to date. Okay, well, we can get rid of you, and you. And I think that's where I'm gonna call it. I think I'm gonna call it there for now. It's been a good 3 hours and 20 minutes. Been streaming for a while, and yeah, I appreciate whoever has been watching it the entire time. Hopefully you are able to hear this. But if not, thanks for tuning in, leaving me on in the background, and I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, I'm gonna stream tomorrow. I'm gonna stream Thursday, 9 to 1, or a little earlier if I finish all my stuff and don't feel like playing a game and I want to go outside. So, see ya. It's been real. I have a couple games to check them out, and I have videos going up on the channel and shorts going up on the channel all the time. So, yeah, see you around.